Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ray. In the Buddhist theology, there are 6 enemies of the mind, which are 6 friends of the ego, separating us from salvation, from enlightenment, for our next step. In this video, we're going to dive into each one of these and understand deeply how we can detach from them and why they are so important. So, stay tuned. Let us review them one by one. First, Lubha, greed. Second, Moha, attachment. Third, Mada, pride. Fourth, Kama, lust. Fifth, Krodha, anger. And the 6th, Matsarya, jealousy. Now, each one of these has an influence on the separateness experience that we have. In other words, when we are, for example, have pride. What is pride? Pride is above other people. What is anger? Anger is towards other people or towards self. What is greed? It is wanting something that I don't really have. The purpose is to become the observer. The purpose is to become aware of these properties that we have within our character and know how to analyze them, view them, accept them as they are, and then slowly reduce them from our life. Now, let's go one by one. Greed, Lubha. Now, the reason that greed is the enemy of the mind is that we always want something. The mind always wanders to the future and it doesn't stay present. And the whole idea of enlightenment is to know that you have everything that you need in every moment. And that means that you can enjoy the moment without thinking that there is something that you actually want in the future. Greed is also about material possession. It is a low vibration. In other words, it's something that I always want. I need something. And it means that I'm imperfect, or that the divine plan, God's divine plan, wasn't perfect when it put me in there. Now, I really like what Bashar usually says about this. He says that if you do exist, then there's a reason for that. And never forget, you are part of a bigger plan. You chose this path, you chose your parents, you chose this life. Second, Moha, attachment. Now, when we're talking about attachment, we are talking about attachment to people, we're talking about attachment to thoughts, to patterns, to certain emotions, any sort of attachment. For example, food can be attachment because we need it in order to feel something. A lot of people eat mostly emotionally. What other type of attachment? To a thought, to a belief. I mean, our beliefs change all the time. The person that we were a few years ago wouldn't recognize the person that we are today, obviously. But we are attached to our belief system, and therefore we're always trying to strengthen our beliefs by taking in more information that is aligned with what we currently believe, and resisting any new information that comes that isn't aligned with what we believe. But once the belief shifts or changes, once a certain threshold of new information comes in, then we know that we don't need to be attached to the belief. Now, think about it this way. A normal person defines themselves not only by their name or by their sex or from the country that they're born in, but they define themselves by their thoughts, by their belief, because they think that this is who they are. When we disengage from the attachment to any thought, like in a meditation, to any emotion that we have, it doesn't mean that we disappear. It means that we become more of who we truly are. And that is the amazing part. Next is Mada, pride. A lot of people think that pride is our ego, or when we say ego, use the word ego, they usually think that it has to do with pride. That's just one part of it. The ego is a part of our character here. We have to have it in some way. It serves us. If we didn't have it, we wouldn't have a dual experience, and therefore we wouldn't be able to become people. Pride means that I think more of myself than I think of others. In other words, I think that I'm better, I'm more knowledgeable, it means that I'm always right, and I will always argue because of that. Pride is what brings any argument to any relationship. It doesn't matter if it's your colleague or your spouse or with your parents. 2 egos that are fighting, that's pride. And the reason why pride is in the self-mastery, or the enemies of the self-mastery, is because once you get rid of your pride, once you can say minimize your ego, you will learn much more from your mistakes. In other words, you will be able to see everybody in the same level as you. You will be able to hear anything that they have to say, even if you think that they are wrong. You will still accept a part of it, and you will be able to analyze it and maybe see that they are right in some way, because you wouldn't have that filter, the pride filter we call it. Next is Kama, lust. Now, this is not just about sexual lust, but sexual lust and the desire for food and everything like that is a part of it. In other words, you are reacting instead of responding. For example, if you go out somewhere and you see a dish of food, the first thing that comes in most people's mind is, oh, I want to taste something because it looks kind of good. That's a reaction. That comes from lust. You see a beautiful woman, or if you're a woman, you see a beautiful man, you are sexually aroused sometimes, that's a reaction. That's lust. That means that we are attached in some way because something is controlling us and we're not controlling it. One of the biggest things that I have in the workshops that I teach is to teach people how to take control of the lust they have for food, for example. Next, we have Krodha, anger. Now, we are talking about any type of anger, and I'm talking about from the smallest to the biggest. Don't compare yourself to the people that have road rage or the people who are violent towards their spouse or their children. Those are like the rare occasion. What we're talking about is any type of small anger that will move you from your center. In other words, you are being impatient towards somebody that is in the supermarket and you're waiting in line to buy something small and they're chatting with the receptionist or anything like that. Really, any example that you think that is moving you away from your center, that can be considered anger. Now, can you imagine yourself without any sort of anger, being peaceful? Like you're on a good vacation and you say to yourself, oh my God, everything is just aligned here. I don't have to have stress over work. I'm not waiting for anybody's call. I don't have any obligation. Just on a constant vacation, but in real life. It's really about how we react to the day-to-day circumstances. And that is where we are judged. That is where the work needs to be done. And the last one, Matsarya, jealousy. Now, you can think about jealousy as having pride and having attachment. It means that we have attachment to what we have and we want something that is bigger than that. Jealousy towards others people's manifestations, for example, others people's relationships, other people's money or cars or apartments or anything like that. That is the last one of the mind enemies. And of course, when we are summarizing this, we can understand that when we are working on our gear, attachment, pride, lust, anger, and jealousy, we're moving from the ego-centered society and personality towards the freedom. Now, look at monks, okay? Look at people who are working on themselves quite a lot, and they don't have things. They get rid of things in order to not be attached to them. They see everybody is equal, so there's no jealousy. They don't get angry towards each other because everything is very simple. They live a very simple life. They cut off their hair most of the time. They have one robe that they wear in the same color, so there's no actual separation between anybody else. There's no actual possession. That's why they work on all of these simultaneously. So my friends, thank you very much for staying all the way to the end. And of course, if you have any comments or questions, you can write them down here below. If you want to sign up to my newsletter, go to raymaor.com, where you can also see my online schedule. Namaste, and I will see you in my next video.